A number of people have asked me if I'm going to be producing an audiobook for the God Conundrum, and the answer is yes, I am, but it's going to take an awful lot of time to do it all terribly professionally. So I'm going to just start doing it for YouTube and Facebook, probably unprofessionally, but hopefully it will give you an idea. So this is it, The God Conundrum by me, David Harper. It took me 11 months to write it, and it was a book that I genuinely set out not to write. I didn't plan on writing a book. It just it happened. Anyway, here we go. So it's all about an investigation into Christianity, starting out as an agnostic, someone who wasn't sure of anything and had zero knowledge of the Bible, of Christianity, of even whether Jesus was a real living person. I started from completely ground zero. So here we go. Here's the book, and I'm very grateful it has become a bestseller. I don't take any credit for that, by the way, none at all. All I did was compiled information, real facts, figures, science, history, documentation, eyewitness accounts and testimonies from all over the world, 2,000 years worth, including an awful lot of very modern scientific and legal investigations into the historicity of the New Testament, into Jesus' claims and Christianity overall. And of course, I dig very deeply into the spiritual side of this too. So spiritual philosophy, Christian philosophy and theology. Anyway, I promise you, it's a very easy book. It couldn't be anything else for me. So I write it in a way, it's very conversational and easy to understand. So I had to put all of this scientific stuff that I came across into a form that I could understand. So here we go. Introduction, first page. In the beginning, the Big Bang created the universe, and within the first few seconds, the universe was billions of miles deep. But who or what caused the universe to come into existence? Was it designed and executed by a supernatural intelligence, or did the Big Bang simply happen by accident? In other words, did the universe suddenly and for no reason make itself from nothing, caused by nothing? So did God make the universe, or did it make itself by accident? If you believe that there is a creative mind behind the birth of the universe, then you'll probably believe that the very same creator designed and made life as we know it too. And if that's the case, you'll have to attempt to understand the technology employed in creating life, the universe, and everything, because we'll be talking about the greatest scientist of all time. If you think AI is advanced now, wait until you see what was going on billions of years ago. On the other hand, if you believe that the creation of the universe was just a lucky mishap, then you'll also believe, using your rational thinking brain, that all reality, space, time, matter, and life, including you, were made by nothing more than a series of unexplained accidents with no intelligence, purpose, or meaning behind them. We only have two possible options to explore here. It's a 50-50 situation. The universe and life as we know it either happened and was designed by something more intelligent than us, or it happened by accident with no intelligent input. Either way, hold on tight, because I'm going to reveal some information that will shock you. I also predict that I'll make you think very differently, not only about the world, but even more interestingly, about you and your place in it. You'll discover surprising things about yourself. You'll see new things in nature that you didn't know were there before, and you won't look at people in the same way ever again. So this book is an easy to follow layman's study. It looks for the meaning of life in an attempt to answer some fundamental questions about our limited time on earth, and to work out whether or not God exists and whether there is a reason for or any point at all to your existence and my existence. But to make you feel a bit better about your prospects for life, in my research, I found that there is indeed a point and a reason for your life. if you want there to be one. That's crucial. There is hope. It's never too late, and it's not all doom and gloom. In fact, the future can be surprisingly bright. My research began after a person who was very close to me became a born-again Christian. I struggle with talking about this sometimes, in fact all the time. I know that this description suggests a certain type of person and might make some of you want to run for the hills. But stick with me, this is interesting and, dare I say, potentially life-changing stuff. As a matter of interest, the term born again, when referring to Christians, is not a new description. It's been around for 2,000 years and relates to a spiritual rebirth in a person. Now, this is something that up until recently had confused me. The complete transformation in this person's happiness, purpose, physical and mental health, I can tell you, was shocking beyond description. It was more than just a renewed sparkle or a spring in her step. Some might describe the transformation as miraculous, and I assure you, some have. Incidentally, for several years prior to this project, I'd taken a great interest in and had been reading a lot of Stoic philosophy. Now, Stoicism was not just of interest to me, it was also a great help with life in general. I would go as far to say it was even a comfort. So people who know me will confirm that I was very taken with Stoicism. I mentioned it to them quite a lot. You know how vegans will often tell you how quickly they're vegans? Well, I told people just as quickly that I was reading Stoic philosophy. In Stoicism, you'll find advice for life that has been passed down to us for 100 generations, and you'll step into some of the best thinking minds of the past who will help answer questions, guide you through decision making, and potentially save you a lot of time making terrible mistakes. Learning from the past and listening to what history can teach you is a very good idea, and this is what you do by studying Stoicism. Anyway, just so you know, if you haven't read any Stoic philosophy, it's very worthwhile, helpful, and stimulating. But after experiencing the transformation in the person I mentioned earlier, it slowly dawned on me that Stoicism was quite obviously not nearly enough. It didn't answer any of the big questions about the reason or purpose for life, as Christianity seemed to be doing for this person. The Stoics give great daily advice, and practicing the philosophy certainly toughens you up and prepares you for the inevitable knocks and suffering that will come your way. It even teaches you to take these setbacks in life and turn them into positives. It's a good, fair, and honourable philosophy, which, as I've argued with one Christian friend over many years, is akin to Christian philosophy and just as beneficial to life. Looking back, I now realise I was very wrong. Stoicism can assist the mind, but it doesn't get anywhere near the heart or the soul. Before becoming an amateur Stoic, I'd read a number of typical self-help books, most of which felt somewhat insincere and copy and paste. They had no real answers or hope for any long-lasting positive effect. Once, as a reader, you forgot to remind yourself to blame others for certain problems in your life, or to repeat out loud each morning what a great person you really are and how you are the most important and special human being in the universe. I'd also experimented a little with different forms of spirituality. It's a very modern thing to call yourself a spiritual person, and I liked the idea of it. You see, I've always believed that there is more to this world than meets the eye, and this was confirmed to me when I was 18. Along with 4 other people at exactly the same moment, I experienced a definite spiritual encounter. I can assure you that no alcohol was involved. It was daytime, it came out of the blue, and the experience was as real as anything I've ever been through. So over the decades, I've tried getting in touch with nature. I've looked at the old Celtic ways and the Eastern ways. I was once taught by a Buddhist nun in a Scottish temple how to meditate. I've been down the visualization road and even looked into spiritualism. Now, Queen Victoria was a fan of spiritualism, so being a fan of Queen Victoria, that was good enough for me. But it didn't take long to discover all sorts of charlatans, and to find that it really was depressing, dark, and not helpful to anyone who practiced it, whether they were scammers or not. I'd never really looked at Christianity. I suppose I took it for granted because it was just always there. Maybe you could say it was hiding in plain sight at school, in the church on the village green at Christmas and Easter, and of course in all of our institutions, from the law courts to the local library to the Houses of Parliament. Christianity seemed too normal for my liking, a little boring, old-fashioned, and just not different, exciting, or exotic enough to be attractive. And all of this inquisitiveness into different worldviews has been part of an interesting, but in truth not very fruitful search for purpose and meaning, peace, understanding, and a wholesome happiness. A reason why we are all really here. Now, this might sound like I've been miserable all my life, but I really haven't. I've had my fair shares of ups and downs and complete disasters, of course, just like everyone else. But overall, I'd say I've been generally happy, just not satisfied with the idea that a life lived solely for worldly success is enough to equal a life with true purpose and reason. At the end of the day, what's the point? It doesn't matter how long we live, what we do for a living, how much money we make, what power we receive, how gorgeous we are, or how famous we become. We all end up the same way. We arrive in the world naked and we leave it wearing only the clothes on our backs. So you might be wearing Gucci when you exit this life, but that's about as much as you can take with you. So sometimes it would dawn on me that what we do between being born and dying is, when you really think about it, completely pointless. And therefore, I think the materialist world was quite meaningless and pointless too. For my own sanity, I'd try to push these thoughts to the back of my mind as quickly as they arrived, and to take my troubled mind off these terrible existential problems, I'd throw myself headfirst into the materialist world yet again, and maybe start looking for a flash new car to lust after and work out whether I could really afford it or not. I realised that life is probably easier if we never question the meaning of it and just live for as much pleasure or material wealth as we can get. This was summed up perfectly by an old friend who said to me, "We're here for a good time, not a long time." Now that's fair enough, and for many people this approach to our very short lives is perfectly acceptable. But what if we're missing something fundamental here? What if we exist for eternity and not just a short time? And what if what we do in our short lives affects what we do for eternity? What then? What if God is real? And what if, as we're being told, we didn't really evolve from fish millions of years ago? What if death is not the end? And what if there's hope and even convincing evidence for something beyond? I thought at the beginning of this project that the likelihood of life after death must surely be a 50-50 situation. And then it dawned on me, with odds like that, I should really take a look at the evidence, if there is any, for life after death. And of course, atheists believe that death is like a general anaesthetic which knocks you out for eternity. Christians, on the other hand, are convinced that death is just the beginning of a new life for eternity. Either way, eternity is a very long time, and that's what's ahead of all of us, one way or another, whether we like it or not. Anyway, this was the background to some of my musings as I began to formulate the idea of investigating why a person I loved more than anyone had been so dramatically and positively transformed by Christianity, especially when for years no one, sadly including me, and nothing else had been able to help. I watched, listened, and analysed the character changes occurring in her over an anxious period of more than a year before I started this project. And during that time, it was an immense, if nervous, relief for me to witness her continued and growing happiness. I suppose this watching and waiting period was a time to look for faults in the Christian belief system, look for reasons for me not to believe it, give it space to fizzle out, and for her and the honeymoon period to come to an end. It didn't. In fact, her faith was quite obviously getting stronger and affecting her more positively. About 15 months into her journey, I began my research into what might have happened to her. What was this joy and purpose that she had found, and where exactly did it come from? And crucially, why had I never experienced anything like it? That's the introduction. Thank you very much. Next video is Chapter 1. The investigation begins. Thanks for watching.